let's kind of make this introduction short. Don't want to keep you guys sitting for too long. It all started when I was 4 years old. No, I'm just fucking with you. That would be a boring ass story. I'm here today for you guys. I'm going to talk and tell you a little bit about myself, my favorite fucking person in the goddamn world. You guys should think of yourselves the same way. But I'm here today for you guys. I came here for free, paid for the trip on my own dime. This is the kind of shit that I like to do because this is a passion for me. I've been involved in lifting weights since I was about 12 years old. My brother right here, the director of Bigger, Stronger, Faster, give him a hand. Chris Bell, he had some of his own obstacles to overcome, and weightlifting helped cure a lot of those obstacles for him. My brother had some bad knees, got some bad hips, and the first person that he was exposed to help rid him of some of this pain happened to be a power lifter who was also a chiropractor. And that guy said, the only way for you to not be in pain is to move more, and you have to be stronger. You have to make your body stronger in order to handle just simply the way that you were born, what you're dealing with. And my brother went on to successfully squat around 675 pounds while he was still in high school. I believe that was in a squat suit, but 675 nonetheless. Pretty good feat for a guy who had double knee surgery. Single ply, there you go. But weightlifting should be doing the same thing for you guys. Weightlifting is a passion for me. Powerlifting is a passion for me. Coming out to this environment where people are excited to learn, where people are fired up to fucking grab some heavy weight and to try something they've never done before, fires me up. It motivates me. It excites me. It doesn't matter if it's 200 pounds or if it's 900 pounds. It gets me fired up that people are trying things that they've never done before. You think about great people. You think about people that they write stories about. You think about people that they make movies about. You hear all this talk about these great presidents and these great warriors of the past and these great people. What makes those people different? Why are those people special? What makes them different and what makes them special? Does anybody have a guess? Nobody wants to fucking talk in here, huh? We're going to get some answers out of you guys today, one way or the other. They have a legacy. Yeah, kind of. They only have a legacy for one reason. Anybody know why? Not bad. Those are all really good, but not the right answer. Close, though, not bad. What do we got over here? Not afraid to fail? No, you're off the team, too. By the way, there's not going to be anybody left on my team by the time I get through with you guys today. I'm going to be kicking everybody off the team for one thing or another. Please ignore that. Those people are known and their legacy lives on even after they're dead for one reason. It's because they are fucking original. They are different. There's no carbon copy of them. They only make one when they make these types of people. And the reason I'm mentioning that to you guys is each one of you have a unique story. Each one of you have a different story to tell. It may not be that powerlifting saved your life like it has with mine. It may not be that powerlifting changed your life forever. But the dedication to the weights, he's just going to throw in a lift here. Don't mind that. The dedication to the weights should mean something more to you than just lifting weights, than just making yourself big. It should mean more to you than just making yourself strong. You're not trying to just make yourself strong on the outside, make yourself big on the outside. We're trying to create a better person. We're trying to create a stronger person, somebody who can handle more shit. There's a lot of resistance each and every day. We are faced with a lot of resistance. We're faced with a lot of negativity. What do we have in our lives that's positive? One thing that we can control is working on ourselves. We can control that. We don't have to worry about somebody else's feelings on fucking Facebook. Sometimes we all are guilty, 100% guilty. I'll read Emilio Paez's Facebook and I'll start text bombing him. So I'll be pissed at him about something. I'm just kidding, by the way, but anyway, the point is that each one of you guys has the ability to be original as well. We all have our stories. And my story is that I struggled like hell in school. I was fucking dumb. If school was an indicator of how smart you are when you're a kid, then I was dumb. If making money is an indicator of kicking ass as an adult, then I am currently kicking a lot of fucking ass. And the only way that I was able to do that was through building confidence in the gym. I don't say that to be a pompous asshole, although I can be. I say that because I was able to build confidence over the years through training myself in the gym, through learning from guys like my brother, through being motivated by other great lifters, other great people, Ed Cohn, Louis Simmons, the Lillibridge family, as some of you guys know, some of these monsters that are out there today. Being motivated by those guys, learning from those guys, rubbing elbows with those guys. But something you guys should all keep in mind, I know sometimes we'll have people come to these seminars and say, man, I really need you to fix my deadlift. My deadlift sucks. And, sure enough, when that person walks in each and every time for the gym, I own my own gym, Super Training Gym in Sacramento, California, and I see it all the time. When somebody sucks at a lift, they're wearing it on their face. You can see it in their eyes that they're not excited about that day. They are already partially defeated. Kind of like when someone steps in the ring with Ronda Rousey. They're already got their ass kicked, right? You have to, first of all, you have to bury some of those feelings. You have to bury some of that negativity. If you suck in a lift, right now, you currently, I'm going to lift this weight off your back. You no longer suck at it. You're inefficient at it, and you need to learn it more, and you need to work on it harder to become better at that particular movement. That's all there is to it. You talk to a lot of different great people, and they say the same things over and over again. It seems so cliche. You're kind of waiting for the magic pill or something like that, for somebody to say something that's going to kind of spark the next PR. But I am a strength coach. I'm a motivator, but I'm not a magician. I can't fix your problems. I can't fix your problems. You have to fix your own problems. Emilio over here used to train with me. When Emilio trained with me, he was hundreds of pounds weaker than he is right now. He's on his way to go to Worlds, or he's on his way to go to Super Training coming up. I'm embarrassing the hell out of him, but I'm happy about that. He's on his way to come up to Super Training, and he's looking to hit some big PRs coming up. A possible 650 squat in knee sleeves, well over 400 in the bench press, and well over 700 in the deadlift if things go his way. When he and I trained together, it was like a decade ago, right? It was nearly 10 years ago. He kept plugging away. He kept powerlifting. He kept going at it. He'd send me a video. Here I am deadlifting 555. I'm like, all right, well, shit. He's starting to come around. I'm like, you got to clean up your form, this and that, right? I would assist him a tiny bit, but he was going in and doing the work. Next thing I know, 585 would come. He sends me a video one day of him doing 635, and I'm like, holy shit. He fixed his deadlift. Not me. I didn't fix his deadlift. He fixed his deadlift. He figured out, he started to learn the wrong sensations, the right sensations. He started getting up every morning, thinking about the work that he needs to do each and every day to make himself better. I need all of you guys to really embrace that. You have to embrace strength as a lifestyle. If you want to be good, it's only going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of coaching. Anyone can be good. But if you want to be great, if you want to be special, if you want to try to get to that next level, it's going to take that much more effort. You're going to have to really go way out of your way towards making yourself great, and that's exactly what he's done. Yesterday when I was in here, I saw a lot of strong lifters. Big Bubba over here benched 495 for 3 reps. That's a body of work. He's a young guy, but obviously he's been lifting for a long time. Maybe he's only been powerlifting for a little while, but he's been after it. He's been lifting some weights for a while. And I think sometimes we look at that and we marvel at that, but he's thinking, man, I need the next weight. I need 505. I need 515. He got up off the bench and he was pissed because he kind of barely made the 3rd rep. I think on his Instagram he said he only got 2 because he got maybe a little bit of a bump. But you can't ever be satisfied with what you're currently doing. Satisfied athletes suck. Write that down. You need to always be working towards the next PR. You need to always be working towards what is next, not what you already did. As I mentioned earlier, I have a gym in Sacramento, California called Super Training. I started it in 2006. I started it for some selfish reasons. If you walk with the lame, you will develop a limp. I didn't want to be around people that were lame. I didn't want to be left behind. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be great. And I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. I knew I needed to surround myself with like-minded people. People that wanted to get after it, people that wanted to go a little bit crazy in the gym, and people that wanted to lift heavy and take powerlifting seriously. And so I started the gym, started building up some lifters here and there, ended up with some really great talent. But the gym was started pretty much out of selfish reasons. Because like I just said, I knew that I couldn't do it by myself. As much as I love this stuff, I'm not going to be motivated every single day, every minute of every single day to get to the gym and do all the work that I need to do. So it's a lot easier for me to have a gym or at least have people that make me accountable for my training. And that's why I work out with guys like Silent Mike here. Mike trains at my gym. He's also my assistant. He comes to me a lot of these seminars. Mike has successfully deadlifted 633 pounds at 198, a triple body weight deadlift. You can do the math, double check. Anybody want to double check? I think that's triple body weight. But if you're training with people that are negative, if you're training with people that are like, oh, my elbow hurts. You all saw fuck your elbow, right? Come on. If you're training with people that, are going to be complaining about this or that, they're complaining about the weather, they're complaining that their knee hurts when they start training, you're going to, at some point, believe me, at some point, you're going to have to cut that person loose. If you want to get better, it's just the facts. You might even have to have a conversation with that person and just say, look, man, I can't handle your bullshit anymore. I'm trying to get better. Let's make each other better. Let's stop worrying about your knee pain, and let's stop worrying about your girlfriend being mean to you or whatever the hell it is for that day. So I'm excited to be here. It's a lot of fun to come out and share my passion for powerlifting. It's a lot of fun to have been here yesterday and work with the team and work with a couple of mutants. That was really cool. And I'm excited today to work with a much larger group. This is a pretty big group that we have. So when we get into the lifting portion of this, I want you guys to be very cautious because it's going to be some close quarters with the weights and stuff like that. Make sure you're spotting each other, watching each other, and paying attention. But what I also want for you guys, I want you guys to motivate each other. When you see somebody else lifting, Give them some encouragement. If you know some cues that you think will help without being annoying, try to yell them to them. If you're currently working out with some other people, you can't work out and be quiet. His name is Silent Mike because when he first came to the gym, for the first like about 3 months or so, he didn't say a fucking word. But he did come in and do his work. And I always say that I don't talk to people that aren't sweating. If you're in my gym and you're not working, I don't have anything to say to you because you're not working, you're not putting in the work. It shows me that you don't fucking care. And it was clear to me that Mike cared. He was just keeping his mouth shut, trying to make his way. You're going to have to get yourself surrounded by some people that are going to take this thing seriously. All right, let's see. What the fuck should we do now? Yeah, let's. We're going to do a little bit of bench demo. I have some products over there to sell. I did invent a product called the Slingshot. That's not primarily why I'm here. I brought it because I think it's good for you guys to utilize. The Slingshot is a supportive upper body device. It allows you to handle more weight. It allows you to do more reps. It allows you to do more volume in your training. And these guys are going to throw on some wrist wraps and a Slingshot and bang out some reps just so you get an idea of what it does and what it is exactly. While these guys are doing that, I'm going to go over the form, the proper form on a bench press. And the form on the bench press is going to be the same with or without the Slingshot. How many of you guys are into taking pre-workout drinks? I want you guys to understand that the pre-workout drink, thinking about pre-workout, thinking about what that drink does for you, starts days before. Most of you have things at least a little bit planned out. You at least know you're going to bench press or squat or deadlift on a certain day. And in terms of actually, quote unquote, like pre-workout, you should be thinking about that particular lift for a couple of days. You got to start to think about that intent for the day. Do you want to be fast? Are you trying to lift as heavy as you can? Are you going for a new PR? Are you trying to do more reps? What are you trying to do for that day? Start thinking about it days before. You need to focus in on that. It's going to help you a ton. Big man's going to do a couple reps with this without the Slingshot. He already worked out yesterday. He might be a little tender, a little sensitive. He's going to get a couple reps in, I believe. How many reps are we going to do? How about a rep for every person that's here? That would be so cool, wouldn't it? All right. Couple reps here. So a couple things, we can just slow down just for a second. I'm not going to mess you up too much. One thing that we're trying to do on all three of the lifts is we're always trying to pull our chest up. That's bench, squat, deadlift. Okay? And when he goes to bench press, he's going to kind of bring his elbows in slightly towards the bottom. As he comes back up, he's going to throw them out a little bit. Notice he got his legs tight. Here we go. You guys kind of notice, I hear people talk about like leg drive all the time. I'm not a big fan of that term because your legs should be engaged in the lift the entire time. You're not trying to jerk your hips around, when the weight's on your chest. You're keeping your legs engaged. You're keeping your whole body tight the entire time. A bench press is not just an upper body exercise. It's not just an upper body movement. It's an entire body movement. You got to get everything you have into the lift to get the most out of it. And that goes for the squat and the deadlift as well. That's why this shit is so challenging. It's hard to muster up the strength from every muscle in your body for all three of the different lifts. You guys owe us burpees and pizza. Yeah, buddy. Something about like wrist wraps or a knee wrap or a knee sleeve. You want to protect yourself before you wreck yourself. A lot of people ask me about these different things. Lifting belts. You want to put a lifting belt on before the weight becomes a maximum. You want to put wrist wraps on before the weight gets too heavy. You don't want to put it on after it starts killing your wrist. You want to put those wrist wraps on as soon as you can, really. A lot of our guys will just put them on with 135, or even sometimes the bar. It just depends on the lifter. It depends on how old the lifter is. The older they are, the more they're going to mummify themselves. But lifting belt is the same. Lifting belt is a similar tool. You're going to throw on a lifting belt once you start to get about 80% of your max. There's some different techniques and stuff that go into that. Sometimes people will train without a belt for a few weeks, and then they go back to the belt because they're trying to make their lower back stronger. But other than that, once you get to about 80%, you're going to want to throw your belt on. I'm not sure how many of you know who Andrei Milanichev is, but you should know who he is. He's the world record holder in the squat, 1,019 squat. That guy throws knee wraps on with around a 500-pound squat. So at 50%, he's already throwing on knee wraps. That's a little bit uncommon, but it's pretty common to wear knee sleeves for pretty much an entire workout for those of you that wear knee sleeves. They're trying to keep your joints warm. You can't power lift if you're hurt. It's that simple. You cannot be an effective lifter if you're hurt. You guys gonna do any more lifting, or are you too tired? Oh, there we go. Yeah, buddy. I think you should do 5 plates. Personally, just throw it on there. I mean, we might as well. Who we kidding here? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not me lifting it. Just a 90-pound jump, not a big deal. He should be fine. As he's going, you're going to see the slingshot's going to kind of stretch across his chest, give him some support in the shoulders. Also taking some stress off the triceps. Let's go, big man. Come on. Get it moving now. There you go. Good. 2. Nice. Yep. All the way. Yep. Good. Nice. There you go. Yep. Nice. One more. All the way up. Up and back. Up and back. He's got it. There you go. Yeah. Good man. Thank you. It's a pretty good way to kick this thing off, I think. So just to get the bar down to, they were impressed. Hey, you guys were impressed with Silent Mike's 315, right? Get the weight down to 1 plate. For each one of the lifts, I'm going to go over a little demo stuff for you guys. Show you guys what I'm kind of looking for. I'm mainly here today to show you guys squat and deadlift and bench press. But if anybody has any questions on assistance work and stuff, I can show you guys some of that stuff as well. But it's a shitload of people here. For anybody who's, when we start working out, it's going to get fucking crazy in here. Try to find a space, try to find a spot you're comfortable with. Try to find people you match up okay with. And, please try to grab a hold of me and make me watch one of your lifts. Silent Mike, these guys here know what's up as well, okay? It's going to get crowded, so you're going to have to be proactive. You're going to have to come to me. So, we're trying to develop a routine. With all 3 of the lifts, we're trying to develop a routine. Those of you that watch a little bit of basketball, or any sport really, but basketball is a good example. The guy's at the free throw line. Guy dribbles the ball 3 times. He flips it, dribbles it a couple more times, points up to his homie, and then he shoots, right? Makes it every time. Swish, right? Doesn't even touch the rim. They've asked some of the top basketball players, some of the best free throwers in the history of basketball, why they do that, why they're dribbling the ball, why they'll spin it, why they feel it so much before they shoot it. And they've said they're trying to feel the weight of the ball. Well, you figure the weight of the ball would be pretty consistent from the time they're like 12 until they get to the NBA. You know, decades of them feeling the ball and shooting, right? But what they're trying to do is they're trying to ingrain a certain sensation and a certain routine every single time they do it. So if there's 50,000 fans going crazy, it doesn't distract them. We're trying to do the same thing here, because once we get, you know, once we start adding more plates, 2 plates, 3 plates, 4 plates, it starts to get extremely intimidating. You start saying, oh shit, I've never done this before. But if you have a routine to go to and you say, you know what, I've freaking done this before. I've done this many times over. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it the same way I normally do it. Same goes for the squat. Same goes for the deadlift. So here we got Silent Mike setting up. What we're going to do, we're going to lay completely flat on the bench first. The reason why I like that is it just gives you the sensation of what it's like to bench like shit. You don't want to bench with your back completely flat. For those of you that are less mobile than others, you still want to try to get somewhat of an arch. If you're to stick your arms out like this, some of you guys can see all the way over here, 360. If you stick your arms out like this would be the worst way to bench. This would be the greatest range of motion, right? We want to try to pull our shoulder blades back and down, not back and up. Sometimes people go like this. They try to bench press in here, okay? You pull your shoulder blades back and down. When you take the weight out of the rack, even when someone hands it to you, you want to try to pull the weight out of the rack. You want to try to lock the weight in and make it, just pretend that your elbows are locked out. They don't actually have to be. We can trick the judges. No big deal. They don't know what's going on. Have your arms be like this in here, okay? Then when it's time to bench, you're going to bring your elbows in slightly. As you come back up, you're going to fire your elbows out, and you're pushing the weight up and back. You're pushing the weight up and back towards your double chin, or chins, I should say, sorry. So, can you give him a lift off? I don't want him to hurt himself. So you see how he's got his legs engaged here? He's pushing himself in a way that's kind of making it feel like he's on a decline bench. He's also got the shoulders locked in. He's got the chest up. You want the rib cage up. The knee here is lower than the hip. That tells me that his rib cage is up. That tells me he's got his butt engaged, his thighs are engaged. And you actually, a lot of people don't know this one, you actually want to try to force your knees out on the bench press, with the exception of some people that actually kind of squeeze the bench press because they got their feet way back underneath them. In general, I don't care if you bench on the balls of your feet or with your feet flat. Why do they call it the balls of your feet? Sounds weird, doesn't it? I don't want balls. I don't want balls in my feet. Sounds, yeah, just in my face. That's a good way of putting it. Your foot should be located kind of directly under your knee, okay? And we're trying to get an arch. We're not really trying to arch the lower back. We're just trying to pull the shoulder blades together and pull our chest up, which automatically gives us an arch in our lower back. There should be space between you and the bench. Here we go. He's going to do a couple reps. Rest it on your chest a little bit. See how the elbows came down a little bit right there? Now he's going to throw the elbows out and up. Also notice where he's touching the weight. A lot of the things that have happened, keep going. A lot of things have happened in powerlifting in the last few years. There's been a shift from geared lifting to raw lifting, and a geared lifter would hit way down here where it says Barbell Brigade. And sometimes a thicker athlete may still go that direction. But in general, you want to be up here. You want your, go ahead and lock the weight out. You want your wrist and elbow and the bar to all be in alignment. Watch when he goes to the bottom. They're all pretty much in alignment. The elbow is slightly this way of the bar, and that's the way it should be. You can rack it. Get that pump. For anyone who coaches anybody else, or for anyone that's like just bench pressing erratically, anyone who does one of these guys, a squirmy bench, I used to do it all the time as a kid. Anyone who's bench pressing like that, they're off the team. No, I'm just kidding. Man, you guys are dead. What the fuck's going on here? You guys need a white monster or something? What's going on? Get these guys fired up. Take your shirt off, start posing. Let's go. Anyway, what the fuck was I saying? It doesn't matter. We're gonna have everyone break up into some groups. How you guys decide to do that is gonna be up to you. And like I said, I want you guys to just kind of pair up with people that are similar. I'm gonna take you over to the deadlift and show you the deadlift right here. So you guys that are over here might want to come this way. Yeah, show you the, yep. Deadlifts. Try not to fart. You're really not gonna pose?
That's for later. Where's everybody running away?
Yeah, throw a weight. Oh, we're not. Sorry, we're not bench pressing yet. So, unless you guys are just setting some stuff up, we're deadlifting. My bad. My bad. Going big?
On nose.
Getting serious. So something to keep in mind, I sometimes forget to mention, with any of these lifts, we're always trying to brace our stomachs. We're always trying to engage our stomach. Even on the bench press, for myself, I like to actually kind of put the belt. I like to wear a belt on the bench press, help support your back a little bit more. The bench press, believe it or not, out of all three, is the worst one in terms of recovery because you're in the most compromised, weird position. You're kind of twerking yourself into a weird position, and it is very a vulnerable position for your lower back. So I suggest wearing a belt there. But on all three lifts, we're trying to engage our stomach. We're trying to keep our stomach tight, and we're trying to push our stomach outward against the belt. If you're not wearing a lifting belt, you should be. But if you're totally against them, then you're going to want to try to keep your stomach tight. You kind of keep it tight, just thinking of someone's about to surprise punch you in the gut. You're trying to keep your stomach turned on by at least around 40 to 60%. So you're not totally bearing down on it, turning purple and passing out, but you do have your stomach muscles turned on and you are trying to engage those muscles. When you have a belt on and you go to bend down to get the bar, even if you are thin-waisted, you should still feel some pressure there. If you're not feeling pressure there, you can do planks, you can do ab movements with a belt on, real light, with the belt on with a little bit of breathing room in it. And as you're doing your exercise, you can push outward against the belt. Going to have Mike demonstrate a conventional deadlift. You want to have your feet fairly close. Sometimes I see people line up like this with a much wider stance. And that's only going to work for guys that are like 6'5" and above. So for some of you guys that are tall, I mean, if you're 6'4", maybe even, for some of you guys that are tall, it may apply, it may be effective to do this. A lot of World's Strongest Man competitors lift this way. Brian Shaw, who's like 6'10" or 6'13", he weighs about 900 pounds and deadlifts around 985. He's just an enormous human being, so he gets a really wide stance. Keep in mind, though, with that wide stance, you're going to have a wide grip. And with a wide grip, you're going to be lifting the weight higher. Class, following me? Page 43. Why are we on page 43? Because I fucking said so. That's the page we're on. Page 43, that'll be on the test, number 2 pencil. So feet are going to be close. You're going to point those little guys out just a tiny bit. The reason why we want to do that is because we're actually going to force our knees out on this lift as well as the squat. He's going to get his hands just a little bit outside where his knees are. I see a lot of people making the mistake of not making enough room for where their legs are. For some of you guys that are bigger, you're going to want to maybe just have a little bit of a wider grip so you can make room for your legs, because in a conventional deadlift, your knees actually have to travel slightly forward of the barbell before you start your pull. Something else you're going to notice that we do is we don't like to hang out in that bottom position for a long time. Olympic lifters like to do that, and Olympic lifters are weird. That's all you need to really know about them. They're strange and they're very quiet people, and I don't understand them. And whenever I see them in the gym, I always think they're going to come back and like blow the place up or something. I don't know what's going on. So ignore what they're doing. But that's a different sport, and it's a different style of lift. They have too many other things to worry about with their lift. A deadlift is a much different movement, and a movement that you can lift a lot more weight in, by the way. So where you line up on the bar, we need to give ourselves some room. Notice his His shins are just several inches away. If you look down from the top, it's right dead center in about the middle of his shoe. That's going to be determined by how mobile you are. If you're not mobile, you're going to have to back off the bar a little bit. If you're extremely mobile and you can squat down without your heels coming off the ground, then you can get super close to the bar. But in general, you're going to go about halfway. I know none of you are going to remember this anyway, but I figured I'd just give it to you anyway. Hopefully we'll put it up on YouTube and you can keep watching it over and over again. So here he is, and now he's going to grab the bar. Something that we're looking to do is we bend down. Again, this is a shitty position to deadlift from. We like to get into crappy positions first and then uncrapify ourselves and get into a better position and then lift from there. So he's going to wind himself up, get his back flat. Notice when he did that, if you can do it again, notice how he got his arms tight, and he used his arms to help get his back flat. He's pulling on the barbell. He just pulled some of the slack out of the bar. He's going to get his back straight. Now he's going to start to bring his hips down. He's going to pull right from there. He's going to do it kind of in slow motion this time. He's going to sit at the bottom just for a little bit, even though we said we don't do that normally, just so you can kind of see it a little better. He's going to sit in that bottom position, and he's going to go from there. What we're trying to do, pretty simple. What I'm asking you guys to do is we're trying to keep our hips lower than our shoulders. Our hips are lower than our shoulders. And we're trying desperately to keep our back flat. Now we all know that that's not always going to happen when the shit hits the fan, the weights get really heavy, right? Things are going to start to get a little crazy. You're going to start to get rounded over. You're going to start to turn purple. You're going to start to feel like you're going to pass out. All kinds of crazy things happen when you go to lift heavy, right? But we're trying to keep our back flat. You can only handle so many rounded over deadlifts. And when I'm talking about a rounded deadlift, I'm not necessarily talking about rounding of the upper back. Some athletes that have longer limbs, longer arms. I've seen a lot of females actually be able to pull off some pretty wild ass rounded back deadlifts. A lot of times girls have just longer limbs, longer legs, longer arms, and shorter torsos. And so their lockout becomes different. My lockout might be all the way up by my wiener, and their lockout will be down on their quads, okay? Anyway, it's a long story. I know you're all doing the math. You're like, let's see, carry the one, yeah. Does anybody have any questions on that? Does anybody know what page we're on? Ready? 1, 2, 3. 43. There we go. Hey, we're coming together. This is wonderful. Let's hug. Maybe I should just hug Mike. You guys don't look like you're into it. Fucking A, man. I can't win these guys over. You were right. Shouldn't even came.
It's those nipples.
Is it the nipples? Is that what's... I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. In more ways than one. So now we got the sumo deadlift. We're going to creep up a little bit closer on the bar on this one. He's got his shins almost touching the bar. A lot of the movement is still similar. We are still asking you to get your hips lower than your shoulders, and we're still trying to get our back flat. Just two things to remember. That's it. It's pretty simple. So now he's in a crappy position. He's going to fix that up, tighten up his back, tighten up his arms. He's going to pull from there. On both lifts, both the sumo and conventional deadlift, we're trying to get some weight behind the barbell. How that looks is going to depend on how you're built and how efficient you are at deadlifting. Everyone's going to be a little different. But some common mistakes that we see, especially with the sumo deadlift, we see people squat down way too low for it. And we see them kind of shift their hips forward, and their knees are forward of the barbell. The conventional deadlift, knees come forward. The sumo deadlift, the knees are straight up and down. You don't want the knees to come forward. You don't want to be squatting down too far. If you are squatting down too far, I'll show you what'll fix it. Have the knees a little forward there. Just bring your hips up. That's it. Just bring your hips up a little bit. Same thing with the conventional deadlift. If you see somebody, they have their hips way too low, and the only thing that moves when they go to lift the weight is their body and not the barbell, then they probably need this deadlift with a higher hip position. Some people need to kind of tabletop it and have their Their hips and shoulders almost in total alignment depending on how they're built. So everyone's going to be a little bit different there. A few more things to go over. What we're looking for in both forms of the deadlift is we're looking for a neutral spine. As I mentioned, backed flat, pretty simple. But we're also looking for you keeping your head and your neck in line with your back. Because, believe it or not, it is all connected. Yeah, your toe is connected to your face. How fucking wild is that? That blow your mind? Anybody gonna write that down? That's not on the test. Bonus question. So Mike's gonna just do a couple more reps here, just to give him some exercise. Trying to force your knees out. When you get the form right, it won't really feel like you lifted the weight. It won't feel like a brutally tough lift. The conventional deadlift oftentimes will feel that way, but with this lift, it feels like you're just forcing your knees out and kind of pushing against the floor. And next thing you know, you're locked out. And obviously, it's not going to happen with 110% or 100% of your max, but it's going to happen with 50, 60% of your max once you start to become more efficient at it. Anybody have any questions on the sumo deadlift? Guys are scared. Scared. I know there's questions. There's got to be questions.
Does it matter, like, for my size? Is that better for me for the conventional one?
Yeah, how do you choose, how do you choose between conventional or sumo? Sounds like a really tricky question, doesn't it? How about we do it this way? How about you try both lifts, and whatever lift you feel more comfortable in, and whatever lift you lift more weight in, we stick with that. See, this isn't all that complicated. Oh, we got a question.
How often should I deadlift? And how
Every
often
day.
Can I go heavy?
Every day. No. You should deadlift about once a week. If you're new to it, you may be able to deadlift about twice a week, but you want to keep the amount of weight that you're handling low. As you start to progress, as you get stronger, most people can usually only handle deadlifting once a week. As you get even stronger than that and you start to refine your technique and you start to get a little bit more betterist at deadlifting, you are going to have to even back off from that a little bit. How we know when it's time to back off? You will stop making progress. It's that black and white sometimes. Things will go backwards. Emilio over here is up to 700. Got another guy in here pulling around 750. Once you start to get, in that range, or once you start pulling, double and triple body weight, that's when things are going to really start to change, and you'll have to start to really pay attention to what's going to work best for you. The Lillibridges, Eric Lillibridge holds multiple all-time world records. Ernie Lillibridge Jr. holds multiple all-time world records. They also coach a lot of great lifters. They only lift heavy every other week. Usually by heavy, I mean they're going like pretty much all out in those particular workouts. But they go heavy about every 14 days on a squat, every 14 days on a deadlift, and about every 14 days in the bench press as well, because they need that amount of time to rest. If you're a newer lifter, if you're not that strong, you should know who you are. If you're not that strong yet and you're still working on things, you're going to have a higher frequency. For the squat, you're going to want to squat, a minimum, if you're a newer lifter, of twice a week and maybe as often as 3 or 4 times a week. Again, you're not going to be maxing out every time. You're not going to be going all that heavy. Mike and I have started messing around with squatting 3 times a week. And just the other day, we were moving around. We got up to about 80%, something like that. I mean, we weren't really getting after it. We weren't really going that heavy. So when the frequency increases, the intensity is not, turning on your favorite song as loud as possible and punching yourself in the head and getting a slap in the face from your training partner. The intensity is the weight on the bar. It's relative to the weight on the bar. As far as percentages go, I hate them, not a fan of it. Never liked math, never liked school. And so I don't use them. That's simple, I just don't use them. I let the weight, you ready for this? You should write this down. I let the weight dictate the amount of reps I'm gonna do. You can also let a rep range dictate the amount of weight that you're gonna do. Oh, I'm gonna do 6 to 8 reps. Well, how much weight are you gonna use? I don't know, how much weight can you use for 6 to 8 reps? Performed well, performed the right way, performed with good form. I like seeing good form and practicing good form, but there comes a time and place where you just have to say, fuck it. You're going to have times where your hips get higher than your shoulders. You're going to have times where you're lifting like shit. You're going to have times where things are screwed up. And when things are screwed up, that is actually when you start to get stronger. You're not going to always be able to get stronger by lifting real safe. Things that are safe, unfortunately, are not that effective for powerlifting. The more dangerous it starts to get, the better sometimes. That's why sometimes you see guys training with bands and training with chains and doing near maximum attempts for multiple repetitions and things like that, because sometimes you have to lift out of position in order to get stronger. However, you're only going to recover so well from that. So that's something else to keep in mind. And that's where the assistance work really comes in and really becomes really effective, because you could have somebody that deadlifts 400 pounds can easily deadlift 225 for multiple repetitions on a deficit deadlift, which would be you lifting while standing on some elevated mats or plates or something like that, where the range of motion is greater. So now you're coming from a crappier position, but you're using a much lighter weight for multiple repetitions. All that makes sense? Page, are we on? Oh, there we go.
Do you recommend that someone pulls both styles to work on the weak points?
Yeah, you asked the question about, do you pull both ways? I like to swing from both sides of the plate. So, switch hitter. It's good to deadlift with both styles. It's also good to switch up your grip. Sometimes we get the question about, when do I, just go under over? Do I do a double overhand? If you can handle hook grip, then you're a lot tougher than me. The shit hurts. It really hurts bad for repetitions. But you're going to want to switch your grip up here and there, because you're going to kind of start to develop one side of your body to be dominant over the other. So switch your grip up, switch your stance up a little bit. I hear a lot of people talk about training your weak points a lot, and it is effective, but in order to be great, you're going to also have to focus on the things that you're good at, and you need to become great at them. If we were to really focus in on our weak points, we might all go to like a library or something, right? That would be some weak points. Or I'd play tennis or some shit like that, right? So, the weak point stuff is okay, but that's more for the assistance work. What we do at Super Training is very simple. We do all of our warm-ups. We do all of our warm-ups with both the sumo stance and the conventional stance. Does anybody here know how to get a PR no matter what?
Try something you've never done before.
There we go. Now we got people paying attention. Try something you've never done before. So if you start to get in the middle of a deadlift workout and you're like, man, this my conventional deadlift, which is normally my strength, feels like crap, do a sumo deadlift for 7 reps. Whoever does 7 reps. We did 7 reps today. It was great. Best workout, best day of my life. The 7-rep workout. That'll be sold for $9.95 soon. But pick something you haven't done before, because this stuff needs to be fun. This stuff gets to be too intense. This stuff gets to be too shitty at a certain point. I know how it feels. You miss a PR, you get all sad, and you blaze through a thing of Ben & Jerry at your house. You're crying, watching Biggest Loser. And you think about that lift and how much you hate yourself and everybody around you until the next chance you get to fucking lift that weight again, right? So we care about it that much. We got to take care of ourselves and make sure that we set ourselves up for success.
Would you say that training like a close assistance lift, like a deadlift or a bench, so like a close grip bench press or deficit deadlift, and maxing on those more often than the competition lifts would be more beneficial because they're harder, to use less weight, and it won't be as draining on the body?
Train harder than you fight. Train harder, make the training harder than the competition itself. Sometimes people go to a powerlifting meet and they go, oh my God, I feel like I got hit by a freight train. You should be saying that from your training When you go to a meet, you should feel a little bit better after the meet. Obviously, you're pushing yourself to some extremes. It's a long day, and you're going to feel like crap. But you should have the capacity to still be able to recover from that pretty well because your training was so hard. So he asked a question about whether you should utilize things like close grip bench press, deficit deadlifts, things where there's a greater range of motion, things where the lift may be more difficult for you. And the answer is yes. We have to use everything that we can to make ourselves stronger. If we had $1 million out here in a rock garden, how many rocks would you flip over until you found that $1 million? You'd flip over every single rock, right? So leave no stone unturned in your training. Make sure that you're hitting everything from many different angles. We've seen the best power lifters, the strongest power lifters, a lot of times. Sometimes they're just resilient dudes that just never give up and they keep lifting and lifting and lifting for years. But many times the ones that get to the top the fastest are great athletes. And the reason for that is they played other sports. They already kind of hit stuff from different angles with the different sports they played. They've already been training. They've already been doing stuff their whole lives. They're already athletic. They're already strong. They're already comfortable with their bodies. And when they convert over to powerlifting, it's really easy for them. It's really easy for them just to switch into powerlifting. I always use Stan Efforting as an example. A guy that bodybuilded. That's a new one. Write that shit down. Fuck, that's awesome. Bodybuilded. That's a good one. So Stan Efforting, a bodybuilder, he's a guy that hit things from all different angles because he was bodybuilding. You know, he's doing curls and all these different movements that nobody ever thought would be effective for powerlifting. Now we're starting to see guys are more jacked and tan than they were years ago. And they're still putting up big weights. We see guys lifting some big weights and they look like they lift big weights. Whereas a couple years back, that wasn't necessarily the case. So you got to make sure you're hitting things from all different angles. It's good to go heavy on your assistance work as well as your heavy stuff. The deadlift can be real finicky, so I suggest that you change up your deadlift training as often as you can. As often as you can. Some of us get so worried about it, and we deadlift too often, or we deadlift the same way too often, and you end up kind of with the same shitty results all the time. So you want to try to change things up a little bit. You can deadlift, like I said earlier, off a deficit where you're standing on something, the range of motion's greater. You can use blocks underneath the plates, which would make the range of motion shorter. You can deadlift off a rack. Anything you can think of to change it a little bit. You can also change it with the amount of repetitions you do. You can change it with the sets that you do. You can change it by throwing in a pause in the middle of it. There's a lot of ways you can change it. You can even just change out a regular deadlift with stiff leg deadlift. The list goes on and on and on. You can throw bands on, chains on. You don't want to do too many different things because you end up going too broad and too wide, and then you're not good at the actual thing you're asked to do on game day. So when a meet is far away, you can work on a lot of different things. Meet starts to get closer, and the training template starts to turn into kind of a cone shape, and you start to get tunnel vision as you're going towards your goal, and you start to actually taper off all the weird stuff you were doing before. All the bodybuilding stuff, all the posing in the mirror stuff is going to have to stop and wait. And even in terms of your body composition, it's never a great idea to lose weight going into a powerlifting meet, especially if you're new. I know people are looking at those numbers and like, man, if I was just 165, I know I would be more competitive. But I just would advise you strongly to not lose weight going into powerlifting meet unless you're more advanced, unless you've been doing it for a while. Another thing you can do with a weight drop is you can try one. You can try kind of a test run 6 weeks out from the meet and see what happened. You know, if you only lose 3 pounds from you trying to manipulate your water or your body weight, then, and you need to lose 10, you know, to compete in that particular weight class, then scratch the idea and just keep training. Worry about the weight you're going to lift on the platform. Well, worry about the performance you're going to have, because people are going to ask you how you did. And when you tell those people, oh man, you know, that's not, there's no excuse, right? There's no excuse, you know, to not do the best job you can. So set yourself up so that you have the best chance to be successful. Is there any other questions before we get into some squats?
Do you ever do like floor presses or like a deficit deadlift or anything like that for your max effort, or do you always do it after a 4-minute?
I tend to mix things up with what exercise I use for my heavy thing for the day. A real key to any style of training, whether it's bodybuilding or powerlifting or Olympic lifting, is to have an intent for the day. Have an intent and have a goal for the day. And have that intent and that goal set up days ahead of time, not just when you get in the gym. You can do it that way, but you're a little bit better off having some goals beforehand. So you can kind of set up a certain lift for the day. Maybe you're doing a floor press, or maybe you're doing a deadlift, or whatever it is for the day, but have some goals in mind. I'm gonna do 3 sets of 3 with X amount of weight. How are you gonna do those 3 sets of 3? Are you gonna go up progressively, light, medium, heavy? Or are you gonna do 3 sets of 3 with the same weight? How is some of that gonna be performed, and what are your goals for that day? If your goal is to be fast, then that's what you're gonna be thinking about. That's the intent of the day. If your intent of the day is to go fast, and you start adding a lot of weight to the bar, fucking ruin the whole purpose of yourself going to the gym. You wanted to be fast for the day. You're gonna work on speed, and you were gonna work on practicing good form. You're trying to work on perfecting your form and your technique and being fast, and you screwed it up by getting excited and going too heavy. Just another note, it's always best to be competitive. It's always best to be competitive. If I see, some of these guys over here, some of these big guys training over here, when I walk in the gym, and maybe even they already have a couple plates on the bar or whatever it is, I'm gonna have a way better workout just asking those guys, hey man, can I hop in here with you guys? I know some of you guys maybe don't have this environment, but you should. You should sign up here because this is fucking awesome. You should have this environment, or you should try to create it, either way. But I'm gonna have a much better workout working out with those guys than I am just sitting over here by myself. Don't be so into your program that you can't leave it for 5 seconds to go have a competition, have some friendly competition with some people. You might go and start to work out with some other people in a different group, and you might get a few really good gems from those people. Those people might give you some good advice on some shit you never thought about before. They're gonna say, hey man, your feet are really crooked when you bench press. And maybe your buddies that you normally hang out with, maybe they give you a high five every time you're done bench press. They give you a pat on the back and make you feel great. And now you got some assholes who are like, they're kicking the truth at you. And you're like, fuck man, this guy won't shut up about my form. When I was lifting at Westside Barbell, Louis Simmons, the owner of Westside Barbell, the legend, he, as a coach, he doesn't really give you like a ton of advice. He's not a person who's gonna cue you. He does make you do a lot of work and make you do a lot of stuff, but he doesn't do that. The other lifters in the gym are screaming at you all the time. And that's the way super training is as well. And I get so frustrated on some of these days. This is a dynamic effort day, a day where you're supposed to move fast, right? And I'd be so frustrated that somebody would comment every single time I went, I gotta arch harder, I gotta have my head up more, I gotta have my head down more, I gotta have my shoulders locked in better, or every single time on a squat, someone's saying some shit to me, and it just felt like I could never get anything right. And I'm like, motherfucker. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna go so fucking fast that no one can even tell me shit while I'm fucking going. I'm so mad, I'm infuriated, I'm pissed. And so that's what I started to do. I started just to try to go as fast as I possibly could so they wouldn't be able to give me all this instruction. But always try to be competitive, but don't, at the same time, you gotta be smart and not go too far outside of what your capabilities are. We see that all the time in our gym. People going a little bit too outside of what they're capable of. We got guys that will try to hang, and they're doing weights that are way, way over what they can do. So you got to kind of keep that in mind too. But you're always better off being competitive. Mike and I know, there's gonna be certain distance when we lift with certain guys on certain movements. Got a guy in our gym who squats 771. When you lift with him, hopefully he's only X pounds ahead of you, like every single time, or you start to close that gap. Maybe he's 100 pounds ahead of you, then he's 90 pounds ahead of you, and he's 80 pounds ahead of you. But if it's like he's 110 ahead of you, he's 120, then you're obviously going in the wrong direction. but you should be able to be competitive with anybody. At our gym, we peel weights off for anybody. You kind of hear some people get frustrated that other people are like working in with them. I mean, within reason, we'll peel 2-3 plates off for people. We don't care. We got plenty of help, plenty of lifters to do so, and to make sure everybody's lifting. So those are all things to keep in mind. Does anybody have any more questions?
What about if you're struggling with locking out like deadlifts or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I struggle like on a bench, like my triceps are tiny and shitty, so it's like getting up to here and then like tips like that.
Okay.
Besides, like,
yeah. The way that you start, a lot of times is going to be the way that you finish. The way that you start is going to be the way that you finish. So you have to always make sure that you're in a good position. On top of that, you have to train some of the crappy positions. Train yourself out of some of those crappy positions. If you feel like you're missing the top all the time, then you're going to have to do things like board presses, bench press with a slingshot, things that are going to allow you to push through the top of the weight, overload your triceps. Even things like push-ups, old school diamond push-ups. You said already that your triceps are shitty. Well, you got to make your triceps better. A simple way to make your bench press go up is to simply just make your arms bigger, make your arms stronger. I'm even talking about your biceps. People kind of have lost sight of that, but like most guys that bench press 500 pounds, or at least a lot of them, have about 20-inch arms. So it's going to be hard to do it. You're not going to have the brakes. These are giant brake pads is what they end up being. Your forearm. Anybody in here has ever seen Eric Spoto? 722-pound bench press, 20-inch forearm. His forearm is as big as my bicep, or even bigger than my bicep, actually. Yeah, his forearms are huge. And your forearm and your entire arm is going to act as a brake pad. All the muscle that you work on with all the assistance exercises, and obviously you're building muscle with the max effort movements as well. But with all the muscle that you're building, that's going to act as a kind of like shock absorber. Sometimes you'll see someone squat and you'll be like, man, that guy's really getting a lot of, he's really moving his knees forward a lot. Like Dave Ziski in our gym is a guy who does that, and you're like, oh my God, he's going to blow his kneecaps off. But he's got like 30-inch thighs, so nothing's going to happen to him, or 34-inch thighs or some shit like that. He's got some huge quads on him. He's not going to blow those suckers out. On a bench press, you kind of think of it this way. If you have a large forearm, or you've been working on it, if you have a large forearm, you can drop your forearm down on your bicep and drop your tricep down onto your lat. And you're going to have that momentum to be able to kind of push you out of the bottom. You're going to have that leverage. You'll have that much better leverage. That's why people that are bigger oftentimes lift more than people that are smaller. It just helps create a better leverage, whether it's fat or whether it's muscle or whether it's a combination thereof. Doesn't really matter too much. So any sort of lockout problems that you have, whether it's the bench press or the deadlift, you don't really see a lockout problem in the squat. The way that you start is the way that you finish. So you're going to have to start in a good position on the deadlift. If you crane over and you start to look like a fishing rod that's pulling a fucking whale out of a lake, you're not going to be able to lock that shit out. It's just not going to happen. Your back's going to snap before that ever happens, right? So you have to have a decent starting position. You have to train your body to train out of some of those sucky positions. And also in the bench press, locking your shoulders in, locking your triceps in, locking in your lats, all that shit is really going to help.
What are your thoughts on head movement on the bench?
Yeah, I do a little bit of that. A couple years ago, I didn't really like to teach it because I just thought it was a weird thing that I kind of picked up from Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell, and I thought it was more of a geared lifter thing. But as I started to move into raw lifting, I started doing it myself, and I benched 562 that way. So it can be effective, but the technique of moving your head around, you want to be careful of the things you're doing with your neck. But it's okay to move your head around. What I actually do is I bring the weight down, I kind of coil up, and I'll bring my head up. I look at the bar. I always drop the weight down really, really super duper 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 fast, and then I rest the weight on my chest a little bit, and I kind of launch it back up. I would say in general, especially for newer lifters, it's always best just to learn the lifts as they are, and I would say leave your head on the bench. When you're stronger and you feel better, you can try more advanced techniques. It's the same thing with like a deadlift. Sometimes people say, oh, Konstantin Konstantinov deadlifted. That's really the guy's name. Konstantin Konstantinov. 947 deadlift, I think it was, without a belt, and it's a rounded back deadlift. Well, he's been lifting for probably 30 years, so he's basically a pro, and he developed that technique over a long period of time. So, just in general, I'd say keep your head on the bench until you feel more advanced, and you can start kind of throwing your head around and playing around with some different techniques and different ideas. Anybody else have any other questions? Oh.
What do you suggest when you do a long arms like that? Like for bench techniques?
People that are tall and people that have long ass arms are simply going to have to figure out a way to gain some weight and a way to gain some muscle, and that can become pretty difficult at times. If you're currently, I always say, whether it's business or it's lifting, double or quit. Double your efforts, and if those efforts aren't doing anything, you got to kind of move on to something else. So if you're currently, going from 3 meals to 4 meals, and that's not working, then you need to go to 5 meals. You need to go to 6 meals. You need to go to 7 meals. You need to start to add meals to your day in order to help yourself gain weight. That might mean that you wake up a little bit earlier. Just a few years ago, I switched to like a little bit of a bodybuilding style diet. I started to realize what that's going to entail. I started going for walks really early in the morning, and 7 o'clock walk turned into a 6 o'clock walk and to a 5 o'clock walk, and I wake up at 4:20 every morning. Just because I realize that I have a lot of shit that I need to do. Everyone's different. It doesn't make me better than anybody because I wake up earlier. But it's something that I realize that I need to do in order to get all the tasks done that I need to do. So for yourself, you might need to train often. You might need to, work out 7 days a week and try to really, hit every muscle group. It might even mean you train less. I don't really know what the answer is exactly for you, for your body type, but I would just suggest you really have to start to eat, train your arms a lot, train your back a lot, train your chest a lot. You got to train basically everything a lot. You train your upper body a lot in order to kind of change the fact that you have long arms. When I was a teenager and I would go and I'd lift at some gyms, I'd load up weight and my brother here would be with me and I'd have like 3 plates on there. And I was just a kid and I obviously didn't look anything like this right now. I wasn't necessarily skinny. I was a pretty big kid. I looked like an older kid probably, but I still was a kid. And I still had the long ass reach and long, kind of longish arms for the way I was built. I wasn't as thick. So I had a long stroke in the bench press and didn't look like I worked out, certainly. And so I'd lay down for the bench press and someone would be like, hey, like, you need help, man? And my brother would be like, no, dude, he's got it, I'd rack it and, do it for a couple reps and it'd be a piece of cake. But I was able to develop that, from the time I was, 14 until, or 12, sorry, is around the time I started. So it's going to take you many, many years to build it up. And just because you have long arms or just because you're tall, it may be a disadvantage in one spot, but it may be an advantage in the other. Gary Heisey held the all-time deadlift record for a very long time with a 928-pound deadlift. He was 6'8", but he also bench pressed well over 550 at 6'8", but he made himself enormous. He made himself about 350 or 400 pounds or so. So adding weight is going to be the quickest solution for you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else?
Is that just to clear your head in the morning, or how does that happen?
My gun walk? Never mind. Little Wayne, come on, you guys don't pay attention? All right. Just to get some more exercise in. Yeah, it gives me a time to just be by myself and think about and plan how I'm going to take over the world strategically. And so far it's not really working so well, but maybe if I start walking a little further. But really the walking has been, I guess, a form of like meditation for me. It allows me to think. It allows me to be creative. I can't be creative unless I'm alone. I don't know what the fuck that's about, but I need to be alone and isolated sometimes a little bit to think about shit. And so I'll go for a walk. I'll have some music on, and I'll just like, sometimes I'll just talk to my phone. I'll hit the voice recorder on it, and I'll remember something I want to do with the slingshot, or an idea I had, or invention I have, or whatever it is, and that has helped me kind of clear my head and help me, and my diet as well has helped a lot, which I've kind of ditched carbohydrates, so that has kind of helped as well. Does anybody else have any other questions?
On my bench, I actually hold pretty wide, like really wide on the lines. That's where my index finger is at.
Right.
And I noticed a lot of people actually have a lot closer grip. On the long run, is that going to be a stronger type of lift, having it slightly closer than slightly wider?
Again, you want to try to attack things from many different angles. You know, if you want a stronger bench press, you're going to have to bench press from different spots. You want to do both a competition grip and a closer grip to work the muscles a little differently. It's not necessarily a disadvantage or an advantage to do one way or the other. Some people prefer close grip. Some people can do a lot of weight with a closer grip. Some people can do more weight than they can, you know, with a closer grip rather than a wider one. So play around with it a little bit and see what is feeling best for you. Anybody else got any questions? We can get into. Whoop.
Yeah. How do you find which muscles are weak in each lift to work on?
Just about where you get stuck. You know, where you get stuck is going to kind of determine what you're going to work, but it's very misleading. When you miss a lift, if you miss a bench press, I wouldn't think about it in terms of muscle necessarily. I would just think about it in terms of, shit, I just missed the bench press. I suck at the bench press. I need to work on the bench press, which is going to mean you're going to work on your shoulders, your triceps, your biceps, your triceps, all that shit, your lats, your entire upper body, basically. So when you miss a lift a certain way, it's very confusing on exactly what muscle it is. If you miss a deadlift at the top, it doesn't necessarily mean that rack pulls are going to cure it. You might be deadlifting really slow, and again, you might be starting in a shitty position. It's hard to identify some of those things, but the best way to make sure that you're not getting stuck is to simply make sure you're doing a lot of assistance work and make sure you're changing it up every couple weeks.
I mean, I haven't gotten my belt yet for myself, but would you prefer single or double prong?
It just doesn't, you know, whatever belt feels better to you. I've always liked the single prong belt. It's just a little easier to kind of manage. And a good belt to start out with is one of the ones from Rogue Fitness. It's kind of a brownish, tannish belt. And the reason why I like that, it's not a true gnarly ass powerlifting belt where it's like super thick and takes years to try to mold and shape around your body. It's something that you're going to be able to pull on fairly easy. It's the tan one, not the black one. The black one sucks. It's also one prong. It's going to be really easy to use. It's soft and it's comfortable enough to start with.
Which of the program would you recommend? Westside Barbell or 531 system?
I don't really recommend any program in particular. I've never been a fan of, and I hate the current term, I hear it all the time, of programming. It just kind of drives me nuts because I never heard that term until a couple years ago. I don't know really where it came from, but you know, I think that sometimes we get lost in the shuffle of like what's the most important thing. The most important thing is to train, and the most important thing is to train hard, and the most important thing is to try to get results from your training. The style of training you choose is going to be the style of training that fits your personality the best. Some people like to do a ton of work in a particular day, and that's going to be somebody who likes to do a ton of work outside the gym too. So it's going to kind of fit your personality. Other guys, they like to do a set, they like to sit down for 30 minutes, eat a pizza, and wait till their next set, and then they lift more weight and so on. So everyone's program is going to be a little different. Unfortunately, you're going to have to figure out what works best for you. You're going to hear me say it all the time and be like, why the fuck am I listening to this guy? He just keeps on telling me I got to figure shit out for myself. But it's the motherfucking truth. You got to figure shit out for yourself. It's the only way for this to all be effective. At my gym, we loosely follow a Westside Barbell style of workout. But when people come in, if he comes in and says, hey man, what should I do today? I say, I don't care. Do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, I've said that to people and people have been pissed at me. They're like, fuck man, why do you say that to me? People have gotten their feelings hurt because of that. But it's not that I honestly I don't care what the person does. It's just that I'm thinking about my own problems and my own shit that I have to do for the day. So it's really going to depend on the individual. We have a lot of people doing a lot of different things at my gym. Again, what ends up being really important to us is that we're seeing results, we're results driven, and that we're trying to get a group of people together that have a common goal.